Welcome to this edition of Talk with Taz. I'm your host, Dr. Teresa A. Smith, Dr. Taz, and today I want to welcome back to the show Dr. Velma Bagley, who has over 38 years in business, is a best-selling author of 21 books, and is a voice women everywhere need right now. Dr. Velma is a media personality. She's a dating coach. She's an ordained minister and CEO of Adana Publishing. Now, let me just tell you, she's been married for over 50 years. So when I say every woman needs her voice right now, we need her voice. She is definitely the definition of a Titus 2 woman. And today she's here to help us find our voice and heal our heart and walk boldly into our purpose.
Yes.
Dr. Velma, welcome back to the show.
Yay. Thank you for having me, Dr. Taz. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, Dr. Velma, whenever we get together, we always kind of uncover something. We don't have a script, guys, but the Lord, as I like to say, He comes into the midst and He just helps
Yes.
to weave what we need to share for His people. So
Yes.
today we're gonna weave some things, and we just don't know where we're gonna go. But I can tell you one thing: we're gonna heal some hearts, and we're going to find our voice, because finding our voice and maintaining it is so important.
It is.
So, Dr. Velma, so
Mhm.
many Americans, especially women, are walking away or they're being pushed out of their corporate jobs right now.
Yeah.
How can they begin to rediscover their voice when everything familiar has been stripped away?
Well, first of all, when you work for corporate, it's not your voice at all. It's the corporation's voice. As a person who worked in state government as a deputy administrator, I couldn't voice my personal opinion about anything. Everything that I wrote and talked about while on that job, I had to represent the corporation's voice, the corporation's message, and I had to say it the way the corporation would want me to say it. So I never had the opportunity to express my personal voice. So stepping away from that environment, I had to try uh, a variety of methods to discover what is it that I need to say and how do I need to say it to the audience I've been assigned to speak to. And so it took me some time to do that. And as I went through that process, I realized that other people would want to learn from what I discovered, from the method you use in or the approach you're going to use in writing your material, to how do you want to say what you need to say, to discovering who is your audience and making sure that what you do and say targets that particular audience. All of those steps I decided to put in a book, because I'm sure in light of what you just said, what's happening right now, people will need to know that. And whether you're a first time author, never worked in corporate, or worked in corporate and need to step away from what you have become accustomed to doing, and discovering what is your style and what is it that you have to say. So I believe that book will help and resonate with both those groups.
Dr. Velma, I was thinking as you were talking about Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts and Richard
Hmm.
Gere. And to me, the parallel is there, because you said that once we step away, we have to determine what our voice is. And the
Yep.
premise of the whole movie is she's a runaway bride. Every time she got to the altar, she left.
Yep.
And Richard Gere asked her, "What type of eggs do you like?" Well, she
Hmm.
liked the eggs that whomever she was dating liked. She never knew what type of eggs that she liked. And I think at the end of the movie, she tells him, Egg Benedict. And he's like, "What?" Because she had gone through those steps that you're talking about of trying to identify what
Yep.
it was that she liked, because
Yep.
her whole being had become enmeshed with her father. And so therefore she never knew who she was as a unique person. And I
That's
think
right.
that is so important, because I think it's applicable for us on our jobs, in our
Yep.
families, relationships.
Absolutely.
We
Hmm.
lose ourselves, and there
Yep.
has to be a dedicated process that we utilize to figure out who we are and
That's
what
right.
we're trying to communicate. So when
Hmm.
you talk about finding your voice, I think that book will open up so many different avenues for individuals, women and men, to
Yeah.
find, become
Absolutely.
secure in who they are.
Yep.
Now, now thinking about that, that also made me think about that corporate laryngitis. I had to clear my throat a couple times before we got started. It seemed like laryngitis was trying to kick in, but that feeling of being silenced, or you try to speak and your voice gets kind of scraggly, or you're trying to write and you just can't get clear on the message. How did
Yeah.
you find the courage to speak up and stand out in a world that often rewards silence over purpose?
I have always been a creative writer. I just didn't know what to do with that until I decided to write my very first book after retirement. And so I think it's important for us to try to discover our style and who we and what approach we want to take, and also what message do you want to share. So depending on what those answers are, that will give you the direction that you need. For instance, in corporate, we're accustomed to creating the outline. What are your message point? What are your points? What's your message? Even in college, we create an outline. Well, in creative writing, that's not necessarily the route to take. And I wrestled several years with my writing because my writing was stifled because I was trying to make it fit that mold and
Mhm.
outline, and I hated it. When I broke away from it was when I discovered there's a method that's called the jigsaw puzzle method of writing. That set me free. And in a jigsaw puzzle of writing, there's no outline at all. You don't know how the story is going to move along. You don't know the beginning, ending, or the middle.
Mhm.
You create and write what you feel in that moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll create something in that moment, set it aside. The next time I'm writing about something else. It's all going to go in the same book, but I'm creating as I'm feeling led to create.
Mhm.
By the time you get several different pieces, just like the jigsaw, then you begin to see what an outline would look like for the
Mhm.
story that's now coming to be a story. Because as the pieces begin to fit now you know what's going to be the beginning, what's going to be the middle, and what's going to be the end. So I think that's another struggle so many people have, trying to fit a particular mold
Mhm.
in your style or your approach to writing. And there's no one size fit all for that either.
Yeah.
You have to find out what's best for you, what's comfortable for you. Because the moment I figured out that that was my method, I had a title for it, I was set free. And I've been writing that way ever since.
Dr. Velma, I'm so glad that you shared that, because that's how I write when it comes to my nonfiction.
Yeah.
Now, if I was writing fiction, I realized I would have to have a good synopsis of my story. But when it comes to my, because I'd be off on lots of different islands. But when it comes to my nonfiction, because every time I sit down, like you said, you're writing a different piece, but I'm in a different headspace. And
Hmm.
sometimes, I'll write too long, but the reason I write too long is because I want to keep that headspace. So whatever pieces, or if I'm doing editing, whatever I'm doing, I want to try to get through the whole thing, because I know when I sit back down, my thought process is going to be different and I'm going to look at things differently. But what I want the audience to know is that jigsaw puzzle, we don't have to have a 500-piece puzzle, guys. Let's try to have maybe about 10 piece
That's
puzzle,
right.
because that 500-piece a lot. But when you put those 10 pieces together, that picture is very clear. So don't think that it has to be this way or that way. It will
Right.
come together.
Right.
You have to be open to what you are discovering, because
That's
it's
right.
still coming through you, and it's for you to then still share with others. Now, for those who are sitting at home grieving a lost title or a role or identity, because unfortunately or fortunately, we see our identity sometimes tied to organizations that we've worked at, organizations that we've become a part of, our faith, our family, even whoever we're in a
Yeah.
romantic relationship with. And so when that is no longer there,
Yes.
for those individuals, what's your advice for turning that exit, being a corporate exit or a personal exit, into an entrance into something more meaningful?
You have to do the research. Sometimes we think, and a lot of times people will sit and reach out and ask a million questions when there's so many. I used the how-to books when I was going through all of this. I wanted to know, first of all, I left corporate. I had no idea what the literary world was about. There are rules to nonfiction, there's rules to fiction,
Mhm.
there's rules to a specific genre you want to write about. I said, okay, I'm supposed to write about dating, relationship, and marriage, but the romance genre was inundated with books, and it felt a little intimidated. And something that my marketing teacher told me at the time, and I hope this helps somebody: don't worry about how many books are out there already. You have a specific audience. And what she said to me is, your audience is waiting for you. They want to hear what you have to say, not what all the 50 million or 50,000 other writers had to say, but
Mhm.
it's your specific story, your specific assignment. And so, therefore, they're waiting for you, and no one can say it like you. And so, I want to make sure that that's clear. And something you also said, Dr. Taz, is churches are corporations too.
Yes.
I was raised as a Bible study teacher, I was an ordained minister. We were taught to expound upon the word, not give your opinion. And there you go again. It wasn't your voice, it was what the word of God has to say. And so therefore you had to expound upon it and not add your own opinion. So therein lies another corporation. So it's important for us to understand there's so many environments, like Dr. Todd says, that we can find ourselves in that will shut down your voice. And it's important that you discover it. So my method was to get out there and start reading other authors that were writing similar to what I believed I needed to write about. I looked at how-to books so I can understand the rules in the literary world to make sure that I was following those as well. And you mentioned nonfiction versus fiction. In the world of faith and religion, it's all nonfiction.
Mhm.
You couldn't add anything, like I said before.
Mhm.
When I decided to step in fiction, which is where I used that jigsaw puzzle method,
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that I captured truthful experiences, but in
Mhm.
a fictional way. So as I worked on one character and story, that was one piece. And I thought about another character and story,
Mhm.
and there was
Mhm.
another piece. And then I said, okay, I want to present it in a way that doesn't matter at what point in your life you're at, something in those stories will resonate with you. So I decided not to use men as
Mhm.
men and
Mhm.
made them fish.
Yes.
And I began to research the fish to get an idea of which fish to use for which particular character. And boy, I had to call my expert, who's my brother, who's been fishing all his life. And I said, what's your favorite fish? And as he began to explain the personality of the fish, why he had to use a certain bait, why he had to lower the line a certain way, why he had to sit at a certain time of the day, I said, man, it was easy to match the fish with the right personality of that character I was developing. So it's important for you to just take your time. Don't get in a rush, but do your research and make sure you know and you're clear in terms of the direction you need to follow, because that's what helped me. I had to discover me,
You.
my approach, my style, the rules of the literary world, and then I was able to, okay, let me get started. That's
Well,
when what I did.
well, excuse me, Dr. Bell, let me to speak while you're still talking there.
Mhm.
I apologize. I was
That's
thinking
okay.
about you and your marketing instructor.
Hmm.
Now, you just told us you write fiction, you write nonfiction,
Yep.
but I know that you also wrote a song called No Holiday Without Mother. How did you get to a place? What was your process to be able to become, because now you're a songwriter too, what, because again it's about knowing your voice, no longer being silent or having
Yeah.
laryngitis. How did you get to a place where you were then able to become a songwriter?
I've been writing songs all my life. My phone is full of them. I just didn't know what I was going to do with it or what was God's plan for it. And my brother, many members of my family sang in professional groups, gospel groups, and so, occasionally they would call me and say, "Can you write me some lyrics to this?" So it's not unusual for me to write lyrics, and sometimes melodies will come to me with words to the melody, and I'll just record it in my phone. I say, okay, here's another one. I'll know what to do with it later.
Mhm.
But I was sitting at my desk 2 weeks. It was about 2 weeks ago. That song was created in 2 days. I
Wow.
was sitting at my desk, and my family, our eldest sister went home to be with the Lord in September. Had another family member to pass away in October. My mother's birthday is Christmas Eve, and Christmas was always special in our household, despite the fact that we had very minimal means. Christmas made it appear as if there wasn't anything minimal about our lives at all, because that's what my mom did. She prepared for a whole year to
Mhm.
make sure it was special for us. So moving into this season was a little shaky for all of us. I was sitting at my desk working on something different at the time, and all of a sudden the melody came to me.
Mhm.
There's no holiday without mama. Those were the words. There's no holiday without mama. And I began just to hum it, just those words. Okay, well, what would I add to that? And I added a line, wrote it down. I said, okay, God, this is what you want me to say. No, sat there and wrote 3 verses.
Mm.
Then I reached out to my friend and said, can you do something with this? She said, I said, let me send you what I recorded in terms of the chorus. Sent it to her. And I said, she said, what voice do you want? I said, I want a voice like that's similar to mine. I said, find me a voice that's similar to Jennifer Holiday. You
Mhm.
know, her voice is similar to mine. I said, and then let me know. In less than 5 hours, she sent me 3 samples of the song, and I chose the one that was recorded and it was released the following day. I sent the link to my brothers and sisters, and everybody had the same emotional response. Thank you for doing this. This is really, it's emotional, but I'm grateful that you did it, because everything you say in the story, we
Mhm.
remember those memories. And
Mhm.
so it did what it was supposed to. And then after release, some of my other author friends reached out and said, I played it for my mother. I know Melissa told me she played it for her mother and she loved it. And somebody else whose mother was still living, they played it for her. Cyrus did, I think.
Mhm.
And same thing, same response. And somebody else whose mother was already gone to be with the Lord, she played it and she could resonate with the song. So it did what it was supposed to do. And it just came to me in that moment. But my phone is full of other songs. So we'll see what I'm supposed to do with them all.
Well, the audience is going to be in for a treat because the song is very powerful. I immediately thought about Mother's Day. You know, it's a song of
Yeah.
comfort, it's a song of celebration. I
Yes, it
thought
is.
about Women History Month, you know,
Hmm.
because we're celebrating each other. So it is such a powerful, powerful piece that you have written and released. And you know, you just made the statement about how you guys may not have had everything financially, but your mother made sure that you were emotionally rich.
Absolutely. We're a happy family.
You know, and that's so important, you know,
Hmm.
especially now because many are struggling economically.
Yeah.
uh, how do we redefine what wealth and maybe identity is beyond what's in our bank accounts? You know, I was with a group of women recently, and we were talking about what does that mean? And so I'm gonna pose the question to you because you talked about how your mother prepared all year
Yes, she
for
did.
Christmas. And but she was emotionally rich all throughout the year. Then she demonstrated it from that economic perspective for the kids at Christmas time. So, you know, for someone who may be struggling to meet all of the economical needs, particularly at milestones for children, it may be birthdays. How would you help them to redefine wealth and identity beyond what's in our bank accounts?
One of the things that we always talk about, my siblings and I, is the fact that when we stepped away from the house is when we saw the real world. Sad, hurtful, opinionated,
Mhm.
all of that. You know, I didn't know I was a latchkey kid until I saw it on TV. I didn't know that my family was poor, that designation, until in 6th grade. That's what they said we were. You were raised by a single mom. She's raising 7 kids. We ran an organized house. You didn't know my mother had 7 kids because every one of us had an assignment in the house, which meant our house was always together and always in order. And so we were happy. It was when we stepped away from our environment that we recognized that everybody didn't feel that way about us. We thought we were okay. We thought we were fine. Money was not what a child would worry about, but the world kept reminding us. And so that was the reason I wrote another book that's called Hold Your Head Up, Princess, because my mother told me to always hold your head up unless you have something to be ashamed of. Yes, in there. And that was the first time in 6th grade I realized the world didn't agree with my mama.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to call me something else. They wanted to make a difference. And it was then that that little girl helped to prepare me to become the adult I am today. That said, even though you feel this way, let me demonstrate to you who you really should get to know. I didn't get angry. I didn't retaliate. I didn't want to fight. I just simply, in 6th grade, okay, I'll just get straight A's to show you who I really am. I may be poor and I may be raised by a mother of 7, but I'm a smart young girl, and therefore I'm going to prove it and establish the record that showed throughout high school straight A student. And so that's what I began to do every step of the way. Again, in high school, another situation hit. And then right after high school, I began working for state government at 18, but they didn't feel warm and fuzzy about me. I was one of 3 secretaries. And so the first thing they wanted to write in my probe report was the fact that I walked around the office with my head held high like I was haughty. So they misconstrued my mom's instructions to me
Yes.
not to hold my head. So what I did was, okay, well, let me show you who I really am. Same mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I went throughout the office and made sure I was a specialist in every equipment in the building. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know how it operated, when it broke down, how to fix it, how to resolve problems with it. So every machine in the building, I was the expert. So what happened over time?
Mm-hmm.
Despite what those other 2 secretaries felt about me, everybody else said, go get Velma. She knows what to do.
Yes.
Ask
Mm-hmm.
Velma. She can take care of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so all throughout my life, that's who I became. I didn't try to stop and change your mind. I didn't try to argue with you about your perspective, but I always set out to let you see who I really am. And so therefore that would speak louder for me. And so that was the approach I used. And I just wanted to say that it didn't matter where we came from or what environment. It's really who we are and what we've been assigned to do and accomplish in this world that we should be focused on. Who cares what they say? What they say has nothing to do with who you are. What was downloaded in you before you were formed in your mother's womb? God says you're fearfully and wonderfully made. So be that. And that's what I had to fight to be and show the world every step of my life.
Well, Dr. Velma, you've done an excellent job doing that, because what you basically shared with us is really a roadmap for how to respond when people say that you're not enough, you're too
Right.
old, you're too late, or whatever.
Yeah.
You hold your head up, princesses, as you know, as I've said before, princess can be princess or prince.
Our
Hold
prince. Yes.
hold your head
Hmm.
up,
Right.
you start feeding yourself those positive affirmations to keep
Absolutely.
you moving forward. And that's exactly what you did. And then
Hmm.
you had a plan. You learned everything that you could, which meant
Hmm.
you were also building relationships,
Yep.
which then came back when people, oh, look, go get Velma because she knows how to
Yep.
manage this. So
Yep.
you were really walking in your destiny, in your purpose. But
Mhm.
that takes me to
Here you go.
now that takes me to Esther because Esther prepared for a whole year before meeting the king. Yeah, following Esther's process because that's a process that you were doing, and I don't want folks to miss this. You did it in school, then you did it in
Mhm.
high school, and we know you did it on the job, but you
Yep.
probably did it in college because you were
Yep.
developing a process of how to respond when people viewed you differently
Yep.
than what your mother had trained you to view yourselves,
Yep.
you and your siblings. So you initiated your process. So, again, Esther had to prepare, or she didn't have to. She chose to prepare for a year before she met the king.
Mhm.
Now, it feels right now, some of us feel like we preparing or we feel like we're going to need to prepare. And it feels like it's a survival mode for many. How can women or men today commit to that inner work and spiritual grooming when life feels so chaotic and uncertain? Because it is a commitment. So, how can they commit to that?
This book could have been Esther's process. It could have been Edward's process. It's all the same route is for everybody. But here's what I discovered. I've heard about her story all my life.
Mhm.
Becoming a minister, the study of the word, all of that. Everybody focused on this is what she spent a whole year preparing for marriage to
Mhm.
marry the king. Well, we know that God had a purpose and a plan for her to save her people.
Yes.
So let's look at it. The Bible is full of symbolism,
Mhm.
types, and shadows. And so when I looked at it, if you look at the symbolism of what she did, no woman or man will spend a year preparing for another person the way she did.
Mhm.
The 6 months of purification. Who cares if you clean up your life? Another person is not going to care, but the
Mhm.
one who does care is the true king.
Yes.
So we can say she was preparing for a king, but she
Mhm.
was really preparing for the king, because the
Mhm.
only one that's concerned that you get rid of your baggage, get rid of the old stuff, the things you're dragging around, like Paul said, lay aside every
Mhm.
weight and sin. The only one that really cares about that is God. And
God.
so in the journal, 15 days instead of the 6 months
Mhm.
of purification, getting rid of the junk,
Yes.
male or female. The second half of that, the other 30 days, for Esther, it was the other 6 months. She used it for pure first purification, and then she used it for the other process, restoration. I'm sorry. Restoration is a process where you then, now let me restore my relationship with the true king. Let
Mhm.
me fix what's been broken, because I had to get rid of all the stuff I did and
Mhm.
that cluttered and got in the way of it. So I said, if you prepare for the true king,
Mhm.
any king will want you, because now all the stuff that you did, it's valuable. You appear to be valued. You're truly that ruby. Now you're truly that king that you should be if you're male. That's the whole idea. It was a part it was symbolism. It was part of what we should be doing.
Mhm.
Because if you focus on pleasing God, you're going to please any man. If you're a man, if you focus on pleasing God, you're going to please any woman. So that really was the symbolism behind her story. Let's prepare for the real king. And when you do that, you can't help but glow.
Mhm. Well, um, the ordained minister has spoken. The dating coach has spoken.
I'm
She's
sorry, it
been
came
married
out.
for 50 years. She has 50 plus years now. She has spoken. When you prepare for well, first of all, let me talk about what preparation is. I got to, I got to purify. Then I
Hmm.
got to restore. Now, when
Right.
I purify and restore for the true king,
True king.
the
Hmm.
true king, any king don't want me. And if
Hmm.
you are a king, any woman don't want you
Right.
because you are now made new and you
Yeah.
made whole in His image.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Velma, I don't want them to miss it. I'm gonna see if I can weave it real quick. I can get long winded here sometime. You have taken us from this corporate, being paralyzed in a corporate world, and,
Hmm.
and corporate can be churches, guys, not just
Yes.
businesses, but being paralyzed. Sometimes got laryngitis. Then you took me to, I got to shift my power. I got to understand who I am. I got to be a princess and hold my head up high. Then
Hmm.
you tell me, okay, Teresa, now you just not being a princess and holding your head up high. As you're working out that process, you should be purifying and
Hmm.
restoring yourself at the same time because
Hmm.
you are getting ready for the king, which means if
Hmm.
I get ready for the king, that
That's
means
right.
I'm getting ready for the right job. I'm getting ready for the right
Absolutely.
church. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
ready for the right man. And if you're a
Mm-hmm.
man, you're getting ready for the right woman, if that's your flavor. I'm getting ready for so many different things. But it's about weaving all of these things together, understanding that none of them are happenstance. It is
No,
all part of the process. And
that's
what
right.
you've done for us is very uniquely in a 21st century world weaved all of the lessons
Mm-hmm.
together in a step-by-step process
Yep.
to really free us.
Yep. That third P, purification, restoration, purpose.
Purpose.
Now
Yeah.
you know.
Now you know.
Mm-hmm.
Purification, restoration, and
And
purpose.
purpose. Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Bevel, if the economy collapsed tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
and everything was stripped away, the titles, the platforms, the applause, what would still make Dr. Velma proud to look in the mirror each day?
Knowing that I accomplished everything I believe God set on my heart to do. I fulfilled my purpose. I completed my assignment. I did all that he had given me to do. I didn't waste the time. I didn't waste my voice. I didn't waste it. I made sure that the audience I was assigned to heard from me and I spoke the truth.
Dr. Velma, you know you're welcome back anytime.
I love you
Anytime.
too.
Don't waste your voice. Don't waste your time.
That's right.
Make sure the audience that you're supposed to connect to, that you're supposed to support, you're doing that.
Yes.
Dr. Velma has laid out the process for all of us. She's laid it out. So now the audience wants to know, how can they stay in touch with you, Dr. Velma? Because they may have a couple of questions along the way.
Oh, of course, because coming in January, I will be walking through the 30 days. Every Saturday, we'll be talking about each day, each Saturday in the year until we're done with all 30. So make sure that you tune in to Dr. Velma Talks. That's my podcast. You can go to YouTube and subscribe, and therefore you'll get a notification when it's preparing to air. You can subscribe to my website. YouTube is Dr. Velma Bagley, my website, drvelmabagley.com. And feel free to connect with me on all the social media platforms.
But Dr. Velma, again, thank Dr. Velma Bagley, even though it's Dr. Velma
Mhm.
speaking, but Dr. Velma Bagley, thank you so very much for coming today and helping to bless us, helping to open our eyes and understanding exactly what Esther was doing when she was in preparation
Yep.
to beat the king, and that
Mm-hmm.
she was in preparation for the king. Because,
Mm-hmm.
guys, as we close out, never forget, it was because of the preparation
Yep.
that she was able to touch the king on the earth's heart.
Yep.
See, it was because of the preparation, because
That's right.
without the preparation, she would have been like the former queen and she would
Yeah.
not have been able to touch his heart.
No.
So don't think that you can skip the preparation,
Mm-mm.
which is about purification, um, restoration,
Restoration.
and
Hmm.
then aligning with
Your
purpose.
purpose. Yep.
You got to do all three. And it takes some time. It took her a year. That's I'm gonna say this as we close out. If it takes you 2 years, don't feel bad in your
Right.
time. Because
Right.
I don't want folks to think, oh, I got to do it in a year. It may take me longer. Yes,
Hmm.
the book may be for 30 days. But again, you're working through a process. And never
That's it.
forget, go back and listen. Dr. Velma talked about her process when she was in school, when she was in high school, when she
Hmm.
was probably in college, and she talked about it when she was on the job. And
Yep.
she only mentioned one job that she was taught, which she did that. She learned the process, and
Yep.
that process kept propelling her up the business corporate
Yeah.
ladder.
That's
And
right.
you can have the same success or similar success, but you got to work your process.
Yep.
Dr. Velma, thank you for giving us the
Oh,
process. And to my audience, until next time, before you go taking care of someone else, make sure you take care of yourself first. And there's a process out there. Dr. Velma gave us
mhm.
one. Bye now.